Hey, this is Zach.
And I'm Clint, and we wanted to thank Exoterra for sponsoring this episode of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio.
Exoterra is the industry leader in glass terrarium enclosures, and we are a big fan of getting to see the species we work with both at home and at the university.
We utilize Exoterra caging here at Metazotics, and in addition to top quality terrariums, Exoterra offers an array of heating options, lighting, supplements, decor, and truthfully anything needed or wanted when keeping reptiles.
Thank you, Exoterra, for supporting Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. I believe this is episode 56. And we have many things to talk about on this fine evening. Our guest tonight is the one, the only Jacob Bratz, who is of THP, the Herpetoculture podcast fame. He also has started up a new podcast, and we'll let him talk about that. Flipping Tin, which is near and dear to my heart because it involves herping. And yeah, we're going to talk about locality rat snakes tonight. Everybody knows that I oftentimes talk about my dealer, which is Chris Montross. Chris got to Jake too, so we have a very similar backstory with our recent collections, only I got the king snakes and Jake got the rat snakes. So we'll be talking a lot about North American rat snakes, locality keeping of those, some Nerodia talk, and then obviously Jake's podcast and everything. But before we get to that, we have lots and lots of news. So with me, as always, is the one, the only Clint Bartley. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well, fine, sir. How are you doing?
I'm here. This is the highlight of my day. We went to IHS, which we're going to talk about. And then my family came down and actually picked me up from Knoxville. And then we went down to the Smokies for our family vacation for a week. And I got back yesterday to the university. And being gone for 12 days means there's all kinds of things waiting for me. And I said to Clint, that first day back's going to be a doozy. We're recording on Tuesday. So he just said, go big or go home. And I've gone big or gone home too, with all the things I'm dealing with, trying to keep this PC and uplifting. So anyway, but yeah, that's that. But we're here to talk about snakes and good things. So I have a university update. Most of the animals that are being bred that I'm affiliated with are here at the school, and bump, we finally have things hatching. So first clutch of false water cobras. I think 75% of them are on the ground now. These are going to be high yellows. They're really this. I'm excited about this pair. I've done this pair before, and the animals that come out of this pairing are phenomenal. All of these animals are, of course, dedicated to a project I'm going to be doing this fall in my herpetology and herpetoculture class. So, we've got to get them through there. We've got hognose snakes finally pipping. Our first of hundreds, literally hundreds of king snake eggs are hatching. We have a locality pair of South Georgia chain kings or Eastern kings. That locality is known for getting big. We slugged out on them last year, and then the female dropped an enormous clutch, and that would be the first lamp clutch that's popping. And then, yeah, that's it for hatching. And then I got home from vacation, and I had some of my grad students. They just basically were taking care of the dog and everything, and they were babysitting my first attempt at breeding black milks. And I know they really wanted to send me the picture of the female on the eggs. And I just kept asking, and I got nothing. And then I walked right in my house, straight down to her tub, opened it up, and there was her clutch. And then I immediately called Clint because I was like, son of a bitch, I don't know what to do with these. Are these cold or warm or what? So had to set up an incubator just for them because, as I was informed by Clint, they like it to be in the upper 70s, which I thought was true. I just needed confirmation. So that's my update. I'm sure there's other stuff, but we got a lot to talk about. So what's up with you, man?
Man, it is It's time.
Yep.
Zach, it's time because
time reckoning is here.
Oh gosh, we already have just over 250 babies.
Holy crap.
Hatched out. And yeah, I mean, it's insane how fast it's coming. And so 250 already out of the egg. I think we have 5 clutches that are hatching as we record.
Yep.
And that's like every day. There's more and more heads, in a tub. And I think we still have somewhere around 70 to go. I mean, it's massive. It's going to be a big year.
Mm-hmm.
So, already having to kind of make the adjustments on how I spend my time.
Yeah.
I kind of have my to-do list each day of the week. I literally have a checklist on Excel to make sure I don't forget, oh yeah, on that day I have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And already kind of having to do some adjustments to try to keep up with sexing, with, getting ID cards made. And because if you miss 1 week of all that, then maybe that's a meal that you miss. That's another week before they can be posted and, that kind of thing. So it's fun. It's exciting seeing all these heads, but as I'm seeing, there's already like 3 racks filled, I'm like,
yeah.
And we've got 1 meal in them.
Mm-hmm.
There's that many already. There's kind of things. So yeah, that's exciting. But
cool.
It seems like the timing is going to hit perfect for us because we have our anniversary event out here. That's going to be mid-August, I think August 17th. And so that gives me plenty of time to ensure that so much of this is ready to go because that's an event, that really has a lot of attention whenever it hits. So that's good. Working on, there's a lot of other projects too that we've got going on that are really cool. Like right now. So I know everybody else can't see it, but you can see this here. What this is the controller. So Zach, I don't know if you know this about me, but I don't like to just go with the status quo. If we're going to do it, we're going to do something big. We're going to push further. We're going to keep going. And so we already have Metazotics PVC caging. We have different Metazotics branding on different items that we offer, within the store as well and online. But there are a couple things I wanted to branch out to. And so now we've got like Metazotics acrylic caging for inverts.
Nice.
Got a couple sizes of those. I've got those manufactured. They're on their way to me. We have some kind of like there are boreal enclosures. Like they're great for a lot of the gecko species. I believe they're 16 by 16 by 24 PVC and acrylic. And so we've got those coming. Already approved those. I like them. Now what I'm playing with are some Metazotics thermostats.
Oh,
cool.
cool.
So what you just saw was the controller. And what I dig about these, because I'm working with some manufacturers to figure out exactly what I'd want. So check this out. This unit that I'm working with right now, it has not only a heat, port. So basically, so you can control your heat, but also has a timer port. So in short, you can program your heat and your light.
Oh, cool. In the
separately.
Same unit.
Exactly. Same unit. And you can also program it to where your heat, you can have a night drop. You can have, so all of it will go together. So kind of, it's combining a lot of the things in one unit that I see in various units. And I know there's units out there that'll do all these kinds of things too, but just not commonly. So really digging this and playing with it, making sure that I can figure it out, program it and, all that fun stuff. But, I think I may have decided what's going to be the Metazotics thermostat distributed by Metazotics. Of course, we still carry all the big brands. Don't get me wrong, but just another thing I want to kind of dabble in and see what we can do with it. So yeah, a lot of little things like that. And, like I was mentioning with the anniversary event coming up, we're still a month and a half out, but it's prep time now. We have to be ready because I literally had to sit down and map out how many people we needed because the staff is never enough. We always have to have volunteers to make this day work. And it's okay. I need 2 people doing this. I need 3 people doing that. 2 people outside doing this. And then, okay, now here's my staff. Now, who do we need to see if they want to come and, spend the day with us? So, but yeah, we're jumping in, getting all this stuff ready, and it's fun. It's tiring, but it's all good stuff. So,
no, cool beans. So you and I did a little thing in Knoxville.
We had a good time.
Yeah, called IHS. So we do need to give IHS a recap. I love this meeting. I love this meeting last year. I love this meeting this year. I'm really going to love this meeting next year. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But we did do the day of herpetoculture talks. So, I, of course, put that together. That was on Friday, and then that led into going to the Knoxville Zoo, which was pretty badass. They have colubrids and everything, but Knoxville Zoo is known in the zoo world for tortoises, specifically Madagascar-based tortoises. So they have plowshare tortoises, and if you are a tort person, that's a super rare, endangered. I mean, there just aren't that many of those in the country, period. So getting to see those was cool. And the Pyxis turtles, or tortoises, which I think are little spider tortoises. I could be wrong on that. Lots of those. So just seeing the zoo and everything was cool. But with the talks, it went down the way I wanted it to. It was great. I want to thank Mike Clarkson, the president, for, convincing the board that we needed to do that. Roy Blodgett, who was my partner in crime, putting it all together. And we got to hear talks on polychrus lizards, hingeback tortoises. Chris Montross gave his talk on salt marsh snakes, which was cool. I gave my talk on naturalistic keeping of hognose snakes. Billy Sveen did a really cool talk on what is the minimum. It was a thought-provoking idea that was really, really good. And it was just really nice to just spend a day seeing what herpetoculture is and can be. All the social media drama BS we talk about on here, gone. All the issues associated with competitiveness, gone. It was just a whole bunch of people in a room wanting to learn, and that's what I'm all about as a teacher. So, yeah. And I've already talked. Agree. You agree?
100%. In fact, that was one of the things I said when I came home and talking to the family. I said, it's 2 things that I would point out. One, as you and I have both said many times, we don't really like small talk.
No.
We're not minglers. It's funny because you put us up on a stage and we're fine. We're comfortable. Mm-hmm. But when you put it as, now just you have to go talk to people that you don't know. Okay. You make it happen, but it's just not, our most exciting, piece. But I said, what's funny is, I get out there and within an hour of getting there, I go to dinner with 5 guys I'd never met before. Mm-hmm. May have chatted here and there, online, Chris, Roy, but never met him in person, but went to dinner and we had a blast. It's so, like-minded and just getting to talk and, exchange ideas and stories. And, that was great. So that right there shows you just how being around individuals who like what you like, know, and, or at least even if you guys don't all like the same things, because, you've got snake guys, you have turtle guys, you have tortoise guys, you have lizard guys, but we all were interested in what the others had to say, about their passion. Mm-hmm. And so that was great. The second thing, you actually hit on it a little bit just now. I said to the family, I said, what was so great about this for me is it's been a while since I've been able to completely put away the having a table with things for sale, having those types of discussions, having to, worry about any of the business side, whatsoever. Instead, it was just going and enjoying, hearing about the animals, talking to people about animals. And so it was being able to take that hat off for a little while and just kind of get back to it like that was really nice, really liked it. As you said, the talks were great. Really, really enjoyed those. And I even loved the presentation from Savvy. the young lady that one of the junior herpers, came in and gave a talk on I forget what the species is, but it's
the spider-tailed viper.
I was going to say the viper with the spider tail. She gave a great detailed, presentation on it. And I made sure to chat with her parents afterwards and just say, hey, that's a remarkable young lady you got there. Really look forward to seeing kind of what she does with this, and looking forward to it. That family is supposed to be in the shop next week. So
that's awesome.
So that's great. Knoxville Zoo was excellent. I thought that was just a fantastic tour. Looking forward to taking my family out there at some point. And, that was a good time. But yes, I'll have to say all in IHS was fantastic. The post that we made while there as well from several of the guys that went out field herping, road cruising that night, and how excited all these individuals were when they found a corn snake. I thought that right there really summed up, the mentality of those that were there, because it just reiterated these animals do not come from deli cups.
Yep.
And you're talking a normal corn snake, one of the animals that have been just the most common thing out there, for ages, but the excitement when finding one in the wild, that was amazing. And, really kind of put the, stamp that exclamation point on the end for me was that piece.
Yeah. And we got to meet a lot of young people. Nick, Cole, I know you guys listen. So wonderful meeting you. It's fun bringing my students. And plus we got to meet people we've interviewed too. I got to meet Craig Trumbauer.
Yes.
Talked to Craig over and over and over again, which was just really freaking cool. So if, we're not going to drop IHS because this is a passion project for the pod. We want you all to go. Next year is a whole new ball game. So next year, I sit on the board and I made the recommendation that, people need to make their plans early. And a lot of people agreed. I'm not claiming this. I'm just simply saying that was a recommendation I made. And by the end of it, we already have the dates for next year. Now, I am, of course, I'm not prepared and don't have those dates, but we're going to record 20 podcasts between now and then. So you'll hear. But it's in June, and it's going to be in South Florida. So the herping's going to be insane. Yeah. It's going to be just outside of the freaking Glades. And our zoo that we get to go to is Ty Park's Iguana Land. So we have basically someone who came from our ilk, the private side, and then went, with conservation-based zoo. That's where we'll be going. So I am, once again, putting together the talks. We're going to be going after, marketing the hell out of this thing. So we're really hoping to increase the enrollment and everything. And I'm sorry, but it's in South Florida. Can I say that one more time? Like road cruising, doing all that down there is fantastic. So that's that. But we'll be hitting on that more. And then I guess we should talk about our little shindig. We're going to affectionately, if you ever wonder why we say the barbecue, because when it comes to Colubrid Fest, this was supposed to be initially marketed off of Carpet Fest, which Eric and Owen put on in Philadelphia, which is literally a barbecue in the back of Eric's, by Eric's pool. And Clint never didn't get that memo. So Colubrid Fest is in the Indianapolis Convention Center where the Colts play. So it's a little bit different. So, yeah, it's a go. If you didn't listen to the little recording we did in Clint's hotel room in Knoxville, we are definitely a go. And I know, I've been on vacation. I've been everywhere. Clint has been holding down the fort and working with Mickey. And is there anything you want to announce specific to that? I know we have vendors already, and I know we have people buying tickets. Yeah. So please do that.
There's tons of vendors that have already signed up. I know there's several tickets. When I say several tickets, there are people who are contacting me, letting me know already have our weekend passes.
Yeah.
They're pumped and they're ready. I've had a lot of individuals ask me about the hotel block. Mm-hmm. Mickey is working on that. I'll probably follow up with him tomorrow. So by the time this gets released, we may have that out. One of the things, so just to give you some information, anyone who's listening and, wants to know where can I go to find out more. One, if you want to vend, or if you want to purchase your weekend passes, you can go to showmereptiles.com, and you can just search Colubrid Fest in their search bar. It'll take you right to the Colubrid Fest page, and you'll be able to, get anything and everything you need there. As far as the hotel block, the more than likely where you will find that the first announcement on that, there is a Colubrid Fest. I think it's called Official Colubrid Fest Facebook group. Yes. So if you're on Facebook, search that, join that group. We will be posting a lot of updates in there, and, trying to keep everyone just informed as more and more rolls out. But things are moving pretty fast, at this point. You guys are probably going to get tired of hearing us talk about it because we don't plan on just doing it here. Really any kind of media or social outlets that we have our hands on or that we have friends involved with. We will probably be there to talk about Colubrid Fest. And it definitely has gotten a lot of attention. That's really exciting. We've got some big names that are looking to sponsor it out of the gate. Really all the big names you can think of when it comes to our industry are already chomping at the bit to make it happen. It shows how much this is believed in.
Yes.
It shows how, I don't know if necessary is the right word, but desired this is. So, again, I reiterate to everyone, one, if Colubrid are your thing, or you've been upset with reptile shows no longer being reptile shows and just being very heavy in 1 to 2 species, this is an opportunity for you to show and experience something different. But I also want to say what we said on the last recording, and that is, this is not exclusive. Meaning it's not, we are not looking to exclude. This is an inclusive event. While we may be excluding certain animals, we want to include all people. So if you have someone that you're friends with that maybe they're not into colubrids, or they've never been, or they're strictly a ball python or a boa guy or crested gecko or whatever, this is an opportunity to show them why you love these animals so much. Yep. So bring them.
And I like the idea of calling it an event, because, Kinley has an event element to it, but it's mainly a show that you go to. And, this is an event. So this is for community building. This is for you to meet the people that you talk to on social media all the time, face to face, a little old school. Remember that 2 guys in their 40s do this podcast, and that's what we used to have to do. So,
well, and to point out, while you haven't mentioned it yet, but there's some great ideas for talks.
Yes.
And Zach's working on locking down some individuals. I know that, and it's funny too, how quick some of these ideas just pop. So Zach and I were on the phone a few days ago. He had just got back home. I think you had just, I've
been home 2 hours.
Yeah. Yep. Called. And so the first thing was the emergency black milk snake clutch. Yes. We got that situated. And then it was, catching up on everything. And we started just bouncing things back and forth and ideas, new ideas, even though we'd already been thinking about talks for months. New, just bam, 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 started popping up. And, getting some individuals to confirm, that they want to do that. So I think that it's so funny because I don't know if there's a day I'm more excited for.
Yeah.
It's like I'm excited for Friday just to be able to see everybody and talk to all these people, meet so many people that you've never met, but you've been talking to for years on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Or is it Saturday that I'm more excited for, to hear these presentations, to learn, what we're going to learn and to hear the different opinions and the different views, from these different angles.
Yeah.
Or am I excited to see all these freaking animals that, what I mean? That you never get to see this type of a mix of colubrids anywhere else. So it is going to be an event, and I can't tell you how pumped I am for it.
We're geeked.
So much.
We are geeked. All right. So should we move on quickly? Because we warned Jake that this was going to have a really big piece to it.
Yeah, let's do it.
But let's do the science update first, and
let's do it because I have not had enough penis talk.
Yes,
in weeks, and we're all dying for it, Zach.
Yeah, I know. I'm here to deliver. So one of the questions that came up, and I'm going to paraphrase the question, is how do you if the hemipene structure is this lock and key, how do you end up getting like a bullfox, which I saw one of those when I was in Iowa, a natural occurring hybrid where you have a Pitchophis and then a Pantherophis and they're mating, and then you get these hybrids out of that. Because if it was truly a lock and key, you wouldn't be able to unlock the male of whatever, wouldn't be able to unlock the female's reproductive tract to get the sperm in there to produce the animal. And very good question. The best way to explain this without making this entirely too long, and I don't even know how to do this without pictures. So yes, I'm talking about hemipene pictures. So, but if you really, really want to understand this, you do have to go get some visual aids for what I'm about to say. But basically with snakes, colubrids, well, any of them really that have, the hemipene structure, don't picture like an actual legit key per se, but picture within genera or within tribes. So now we're getting super nerdy, by the way. Like this is the nerdiest taxonomy talk we've ever done. So if you have a group of, you can have a group of genera that fall underneath a tribe. All right. And this is a weird taxonomic level that some taxonomists hate, other taxonomists love. But with snakes, it works out really well because the general hemipene structure, it usually is somewhat similar within a tribe. So all the rodent eating colubrids that we all know and love, the Pantherophis, Lampropeltis, Pitchophis, Arizona, the glossy snakes. I'm going to leave one or two out, so forgive me for that. Those all form one tribe. I think it's called, and correct me if I'm wrong, listeners that know this stuff, the Lampropeltini is the tribe that they all belong to. To be in that tribe, you have to have morphologically similar characteristics in the hemipene. And so where the key part comes into play are those little hooks and spurs and all that stuff. But the basic structure's similar enough that they can basically mate in the wild and transfer sperm. Okay? But what you're not going to get is a Lampro, that tribe, the rodentivorous colubrids is what we would call, mating with a hognose snake. Because that's a different family, and within that family, that's a different tribe. So you can totally get hybrids. There's some really wackadoodle hybrids out there in snake land. I'm pretty sure there's been Australian pythons that have mated with African pythons and produced really nutty hybrids. You can obviously get corn snakes mating with milk snakes, king snakes mating with corn snakes. But a lot of that stuff's never going to happen in the wild, because when you get to the wild, you only usually have one representative of Lampropeltis, one representative of Pantherophis, one representative of Pitchophis, and all those different genera are going to be like occupying slightly different niche spaces. And so you're not going to get that much overlap, but you can. And so you can totally get hybrids from this. It's just difficult. So I hope we're done. I don't want to talk about hemipenes anymore. I have a feeling we're not done. But that's basically that's the idea here. So, yeah, that's what I got. So I believe it was. Is Steve your employee?
Steve's the guy who was.
So I hope that's good enough, Steve. It's probably not. But that's basically it in a nutshell. Is that the hemipenes do have similar structures? It's just the actual fine structures of that organ are very different, and that's what's actually needed for the sperm transfer and fertilization and all that jazz.
Well, all right.
There, you heard it there. We're done. Moving on. So the market update. Let's hear.
Right.
Been a while since we've done one of these because
it has been. You know, I was looking, and it's been just at a month, just under a month, but 4 weeks since the last market update. And it's interesting because if we would have followed the same trends that we had been, then these numbers should have been probably at least twice the change than compared to what I'm seeing. So just to kind of give you, a little bit of an idea on what we're looking at here. Ball pythons. So there was a 595 drop in total number of ball pythons listed on Morph Market, which was a 1.8% market change, which the last 2 weeks before that was a 1.7. So if we were still running trends, we should have been in the threes and that. So again, I'm going back to, I think we're now starting to see babies are hitting and getting posted, and we're going to start seeing it flatline. In fact, we do see that in a couple species here in a second. Other pythons, there's a 42 animal drop, so 2.1% change. Boas, there's actually 72 more boas than 4 weeks ago. Whoa. And 4 weeks ago, there were 57 more boas than 2 weeks before that. So the boas have been hitting. Those continue to grow. That was a 1.5% change. And I think this is the first time we've seen this in colubrids so far this year. There's actually 3 more colubrids listed today than there was 4 weeks ago, which means obviously the sales were still taking place. And we now have more starting to hit the market. So I'm not going to be surprised. I mean, hell, I just told you I'm sitting on 250 snakes back there already with tons more coming. So just in the next 3 or 4 weeks, some of those that we have are going to start hitting the sites and boosting those numbers up. So, all in, there was a 562 animal change, down 1.3%. But as we know, it is now time. As far as colubrids, let's see. The big, what really moved the colubrids and got them to that three animal increase, corn snakes jumped 107 animals from a month ago. So that's 10%. And let's see, hognose down 71 animals, 4.4%. All others down 33, 1.8. And let's see, colubrids are currently making up 10.2%. Really, the mix is still staying the same across the board. We're not really seeing changes in that yet. We'll see, what happens with that real soon. But a couple other market pieces that I want to mention, and I guess I also owe a thank you to our listeners and really to Metazotics customers, because while we were at IHS, I was speaking to one of the industry reps for a company. Rather not mention them for this point, just because I don't want to upset anybody. But they asked me how the shop was doing, especially over the summer. And just as I've said on the show here, there have been a total of 3 weeks, really the entire year, 3 weeks where the volume in the shop basically came down and met where we were doing the same week, last year. So basically we were hitting the same comp number. However, other than those 3 weeks, it's boom, we're really far and above last year's numbers, and we're doing pretty well. And they said, you're like the only one. And I go, really? And they said, yeah, and talking to, all the other shops I'm visiting, they're really talking about this summer being a bit of a slump for them. And, I said 2 things that popped on the top of my head right then and there, but now there's something else has come that I think is the third too. So one, I said that I think luckily Metazotics is sitting in a bit of a sweet spot where we are young enough that, let me back up. We've been here long enough now that there's a lot of returning customers. Right. We have the regulars. We have all that steady returning clientele. But we're young enough where everyone's still excited to come.
Yep.
Right. We're still kind of the shiny new penny to a lot of people. And there's still a lot of people that don't even know we're here yet. So we're sitting in that good, that sweet spot there. And where I want to thank our listeners is I told him, I go, the other piece that I think we're lucky on that a lot of other stores don't have is we've got national advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of this podcast right here. There are people all over the country that know about the shop and know about Metazotics and utilize the Colubrid radio coupon and make their purchases. And we really thank you guys because it's, very humbling to know that we're succeeding when, others may be experiencing some difficulties right now. So we really thank you for that support. The other piece to that, and this is where I guess I wanted to give this advice to whether you're a breeder at a show, and that's really who this was directed at originally, or you're a shop owner, just anyone who is doing any piece in this industry, in this discipline that does have a financial tie to it. I believe it was Mickey had posted a question, and it was, do you feel that sales are slow? And this was in kind of the vendor form, I believe, or maybe it was on his personal page. Do you believe sales are slow because of the economy or because of oversaturation within the market? And naturally you would hear one, this one, that one, both, what have you. And it got me thinking, and I just made the statement, and I want to state it here, that whether it's this one, that one, or both, stop selling reptiles and start selling your passion.
Yep.
That's what it is.
Ding, ding, ding.
It's, if you're vending at a show, stand up, smile, quit talking about price and discounts and start talking about what makes these animals amazing. That's the difference. That's why some people are still succeeding during these slump type times that, again, some of us don't even feel it, don't even see it. And I think that may be the difference is, if you are in a market that's saturated, what's going to make you stand apart? If it is a time where people have less disposable income, what's going to make them decide to spend the little bit they have with you? That's it. It's your passion. It's not your product. It's your passion. So just again, word of the wise there, piece of advice to continue to be successful. That's what's going to make it, is a feeling more so than any other product. We want to have a feeling. And if you can share that amazing feeling with someone else, you're going to do well in anything you do. So I think that I'm looking at my notes. I think that is what I have for the market update. And I do want to thank Show Me Reptiles for sponsoring the market update. We do need to thank Mickey for being so much of the backbone in making Colubrid Fest happen. Yep. So, thank you. We couldn't have done it without you. Okay.
All right.
There's the market.
Deep breath. That was probably our longest opening we've ever had.
Yeah. This is what happens when we go so long without
without
getting it out.
Yep. All right. We're bringing on Jake.
Let's do it.
So our guest tonight, Jacob Bratz, already said he's part of the THP network. Love their podcast there. I've been on their podcast a couple times. Clint's been on some of their podcasts as well. We hope to be on their podcast soon to talk about everybody's favorite thing, Colubrid Fest. With us tonight, Jacob Bratz. We're going to call him Jake for the rest of the night because that's how most of the world knows him. So how you doing, Jake?
Pretty good, man. How y'all doing?
Yeah, we are doing well.
Glad to have you.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here. I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. So most of the world that listens to Herp podcast has to know who you are, but there's got to be people listening that don't. So if you don't mind, could you tell our audience just a little bit about THP, Flippin' 10, you and Justin, the podcast? Because to be brutally honest, that's how I knew you existed on planet Earth. Is I listened to that podcast from the very first episode all the way up through today.
We certainly appreciate the support, man. So THP started, 2024? About 7-ish years ago. I think we're going on 7 years doing THP, and that was THP's kind of the flagship show for the network. You know, it's kind of funny how Justin and I met. I got a random follow on Instagram from a guy called Palmetto Coast Exotics. And I said, Palmetto Coast, that kind of sounds like he might be near me. And I looked at his profile, and sure enough, he lived in the same city. Turns out he lived 20 minutes from me.
Nice.
And yeah, it was really funny. And then I was kind of looking through his profile, and the first like couple posts were crested geckos. At the time, he was big into crested geckos, and I was like, oh god, just another crested gecko breeder, like whatever, you know. But I looked a little farther down, and he had some green tree pythons and a Brettles, and I was like, okay, maybe we can dabble, you know, because at the time, I mean, I was just a guy with you know, carpet pythons and some random colubrids and a few other pythons and stuff. You know, I had a little bit of everything, and you know, so I ended up messaging him, and I was like, hey man, you know, I can't remember if he messaged me or I messaged him first, but I had some carpet pythons I was trying to move, and he wanted to look at them, and he did the whole tire kicker thing, you know, wanted to look at them, but didn't buy them, whole thing. Pretty sure he just used those to actually, you know, meet me and see what I was about. And, you know, he came over to the house and showed him the snakes and all that. We kind of just became friends from there. And it was not even a couple months later, he was like, hey man, you know, are you interested in starting a podcast together? And I was like, yeah, at the time, I didn't listen to podcasts at all. So I'm like, you know, what are you talking about? A podcast? You know, he's like, yeah, a podcast about snakes. And I'm like, well, that sounds stupid. Like, that's not going to go anywhere, you know? And I was like, what would we even talk about? And he just goes, dude, what we talk about every single day. You know, we're just gonna record it. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, screw it. We'll give this a go. And 7 years later, the rest is history, man.
Yep.
You know,
that's awesome.
So it was cool how it all just kind of developed and turned from nothing into something pretty quick. You know, I talked to some of the bigger name guys in the community a little bit, because I was that new guy that just like wasn't afraid to message anybody about anything. And so I asked my questions, and I was that annoying kid. And you know, I kind of knew a few people, and we did one episode of, you know, the people we look up to, and, you know, tagged several of the people. Then all of a sudden they listened and they shared, and it turned into, you know, what we have today. And, you know, today it's a whole community of people, you know, and it's fantastic. You know, I made a family out of it, honestly. Yeah. And it's been the best thing that ever happened to me. And since then, Justin created the network. I had to take a little bit of a sabbatical a couple years ago. I was off the podcast for about a year due to life situations. I kind of disappeared from the hobby for a lack of a better term. And I still had some snakes, but I kind of just took a break from everything for a while. Yeah, and that's just details nobody wants to hear about. And came back about a year after, and you know, I was welcomed back with open arms, and they hit the ground running. And and Justin created the network with Snakes and Stogies. He added Corn Stars, ConjureCast. You know, he just made a central place for all the podcasts to go, which was the Herpetoculture Network. And then at the beginning of the year, me and a very good friend of mine, Skylar Williams, with Hail the Scales and Peach Throat Passion, him and I became really good friends. Good herping buddies, even though he lives 5 hours away. I almost herp with him more than I herp with Justin, which is funny. Yeah, so he's, you know, a really good herping buddy of mine. And, you know, I hit him up one day, and I was like, you know, like, how do you feel about starting a podcast? And we toyed around with some ideas, and we came up with Flip and Tin, because we're both very, very passionate about field herping and all that. And that's where we are now. You know, I think we just finished episode 11. So we record every other week. We're live on YouTube and Facebook. And of course, it's available to listen to all your audio platforms. And yeah, so that's been going great. Sky's a freaking legend, man. He's an awesome dude. He does amazing work with peach throat monitors. And heavy in the Poplin carpets as well, and Barron's racers. And he's generally one of my best friends. And, you know, I think we started something good with Flippin' Tin. So
that's awesome, man.
In a nutshell, that's how the podcast kind of came about and where we are today. So it's been a ride.
Can you tell the listeners who haven't listened to this podcast yet, kind of what you guys go into, you know, on Flippin' Tin? Like, how can I guess I want them to understand how you're able to tie something that's so hands-on into something audible, you know, that someone's able to listen to. And just as a side note, as far as Flippin' Tin, I know Zach, because I was so excited, I got to send him this. So my boy has been dying to find snakes. I mean,
I saw the pictures, man.
Yes, man. He has been
so awesome.
Oh, I was so happy for him. So I didn't realize this. So, you know, we talk about the tin behind the building, and he's always, as soon as he comes to the shop, he's lifting tin up and he's looking to see if a king snake's back there, and he's never found one. He looked one morning, he leaves. 2 hours later, here comes Steve carrying a king snake that he just found under it. And I thought, oh, Dex will love to see this. I took a picture, sent it to my wife, said, show Dex. She showed him. She goes, thanks a lot. Now he's crying. She's so upset because he's not finding it. Steve is. And so then, you know, we'd put the tin out at our property. And when we went out there this weekend, all he's wanted to do is go fishing and find snakes. That's it. You know,
man after my own heart, man.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Come on now.
He went down there. He caught that. It was about a little over 4 foot black racer, picked it up. No problem. Grabbed it, showed it off. He was so excited, so happy. Then he went down and caught him a dozen bluegill. He told me it was the best day all summer. He was stoked. So I guess just because, again, how exciting, you know, field herping really can be. So I just kind of want the audience to get a feel on what to expect if they tune in.
Yeah, man. If you check out Flippin' Tin, you know, it is a interview style podcast, and I pretty much, we have guests from all over the U.S. We plan to go all over the world. We have guests in Australia lined up eventually. And, you know, my goal with this was to, I basically asked the same outline to all the guests, unless we do just, you know, a one-on-one with me and Sky. But I have the same outline. I edit it a little bit, depending on the guest, if he's out west, in the southeast, whatever. I always have certain questions that I manipulate, you know, based on them and where they're at and their location. But I ask the same type of questions because I want anybody who listens to hear all sides of it. I don't want to change it up. But yeah, I ask there's a lot of questions. Our podcast, the last 4 episodes have gone for nearly 3 hours. So like there's a lot of questions on there because I want listeners to get a feel for all aspects of it and how different it is for certain people and how certain people do things, because everybody's different. Everybody has different opinions, you know, and even down to the small details of road cruising versus hiking. You know, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. People have their preferences and how they do it, how fast they go, what they flip, you know, do you do artificial? Do you do more like just natural cover, you know? And it's all different depending on where you're at. You know, like with me, I don't have a lot of public areas to go flip stuff. So road cruising is a big thing for me. But out west, you got miles and miles of areas to just hiking canyons and, you know, mountain outcrops, you know? So I really try and get everybody, you know, to understand how different it is for everyone. And, you know, that's the goal in it. And it's all just to get people excited about the field, because I feel like not everybody at all, but a lot of people get stuck in this world of like your room and what's in your room. And like, there's not that there's anything wrong with that, but like, man, my favorite thing to say is like, you know, that feeling you get when you hatch that clutch, that it's so amazing. It's so cool. But my response is like, you ever found a target species?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like it's that exact same feeling. For me, it's even more so. I love captive breeding. I love hatching out clutches. It just gets me more giddy than anything. The first clutch I ever hatched, I cried because I was so ecstatic. It was something I always wanted, you know, but finding, you know, specifically a target, any snake is incredible, but specifically finding a target species, you go out and say, hey, I'm going to go to this spot to try and find this, and you do it. It's a feeling unlike any other. And Zach, I know you can attest to that. Clint, I'm sure you can too, with that tin behind your house or behind your shop. And, you know, it's such a amazing feeling. And man, once you get it, it's addictive, man. It's so addictive, and it's incredible. And it's become such a big part of my life. And it's because it's also where I started. You know, before I ever kept snakes, I was catching frogs and little tiny snakes out in the yard. And my friend's dad kept snakes, but I couldn't. So he took me road cruising and all this stuff. And, you know, it's been such a big part of my life for a while. And I didn't do it, you know, in my younger years. And I got my license and I realized like, hey, I can go drive now. Like I can go down these roads and look for stuff. And then I met a buddy who's down here from Marshall University. You know, he was a herpetologist. He was actually doing diamondback research here. And I went road cruising with him all the time. And I went tracking diamondbacks with him on a private island here. And that was years ago. I was still in college, I believe, even before. And that really kicked it off several years ago. And, you know, it's kind of been off and on since, but like the last 3 years, it's been every second I can get in the field, man, I'm herping, you know.
Nice.
And,
you know, I think the great thing too about people getting into field herping is it helps create that desire for conservation.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like when it comes to captive breeding, and I'm with you, I love both sides of this completely. Yeah. You know, I do get excited every time I see a head pop out of an egg, and then I tell myself, that's number 300. You know, so, but you know, I do. I get excited because you know what's going to pop out. You know, there's clutches where I know what everything is going to look like that, you know, comes out of that clutch. But then there's some that it's like, I can't wait to see what happens. And then there's some I think that I know what's going to come out. I just had a black rat snake clutch that hatched out that every one of them were supposed to be a triple het. Yet there's not a single normal animal in that clutch. What the hell?
I saw your post about that.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, well, here we go.
Yeah.
But as excited as I am for all that, and I enjoy it, you know, that's more about kind of a possession, you know, possessing the animals, right? And keeping them and enjoying them in the privacy and comfort of your own air-conditioned home, right? Yeah. So I get the draw. I've got
100%.
But then, you know, like I said, as far as really lighting the conservation and for people wanting to protect these environments that these animals are in, they have to go out and feel the excitement of finding these animals in the wild, you know, and being able to do that, you know, and I don't want to say necessarily routinely, but doing that with any type of regularity, you know, it makes you want to keep that spot because especially for any of us who have been doing this for a long time, we can tell you the spots that you herped when you were a kid, the chances of them still being there are very low now, you know? And it's, if you think of 100% of the places you could herp when you were a kid, if you can still say 50% of them are there, you're lucky.
Yeah.
You know, you're 100%. Lucky. So 100%. I think that it's great to get more people interested in doing this and doing it the right way.
Yeah, and that's a big thing we preach on the show. You know, there's a whole lot of field herping jokes of like, if there's a fence, I'm gonna jump it, you know, and it's like, it's all like, that's all fine and dandy jokes aside, you know, and all that. But we really try to promote, you know, the the ethical side of herping. You know, we don't say it's not bark peeling, it's bark peaking. You know, because you don't go peel.
I love when you say that, by the way.
Yeah, it's not like you don't go peel a whole tree full of bark, because that is habitat, and that's the thing.
Yes.
Like, that's the other thing we try and promote so much is like yes, we are herpers. We want to find snakes. We want to find lizards. We want to find frogs, like all that good stuff. You have to realize it's not just snakes in that habitat. All of that is micro habitat, and even in the smallest way, like put your rocks back. Put your logs back, try to look under the bark. Don't peel the whole tree. Only take the bark that you can peel off with your hands. Don't just strip the whole thing, because it's not just because we like snakes and lizards and stuff doesn't mean other things use it. And just because the snake isn't there doesn't mean it won't be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just because it's not there once doesn't mean it won't be there tomorrow, and it's so important to conserve all of that, because every day habitat is being destroyed little by little, and sometimes lot by lot with clear cutting, and it's horrible. It's sad, and we have to do what we can. And I'm telling you, man, if you get out and do this, it changes everything. It changes your mindset on these animals. It changes how you keep, changes your respect for them, and a lot of it is like, kind of Clint, like you're saying, in a clutch, a clutch of stuff that you don't know where you're going to get. Okay. Like that's always fun. It's always exciting. Okay. Like, what's next? That is field herping, because every single rock or log you flip, you don't know what's going to be under that.
Right.
And I'll give you a perfect example. I was walking a burn early this year, and there was a random tree. It was cold. It was kind of slow, but I made a trip over to the Francis Marion, and we were doing our thing, and it was kind of cold, kind of slow. Like, a lot of things weren't happening. And I happened to look under just randomly one piece of bark, and there's a scarlet king snake there. Nice. And I lost my mind, because for one, that was my South Carolina, because I'm working on my South Carolina list. I have found a scarlet king in Florida. Hadn't found one in South Carolina. So finding that one, and it was a chunk of bark that big, just a tiny piece. I just so happened to be like, oh, but there's probably nothing under here. I just looked under it, and boom. It's like no matter what you flip, what you turn over, what you do, you never know what's going to be under that piece. And it's like hatching that clutch, or it's like, I can't wait to see what happens. What's going to come out of this, and it's like that every single time you go herping, man. You don't know what's going to be around the curve when you hit that road. You don't know what's going to be on the road this night. It's always a guess. And every single time you find something, you're ecstatic. At least for me, like, it doesn't matter what it is, dude. I have found hundreds of yellow rats and everything, but every single time I find one, I'm over the moon, man. Because there's so much of, like, you have to be right there at that exact time, right place, right time at that exact moment, or else you would have missed it. But there's so much luck that goes into it, and you have to count your blessings and feel so fortunate every time you find one of those animals, because it's like, it's just all luck of the draw. And, you just got to be happy to be, viewing this thing in its natural habitat. And that's really what drove me to keep a lot of colubrids. Finding these things in the wilds is what made me love them so much more, man. Like, I keep, I keep a bunch of stuff that people find in their backyard, and I love every second of it, man.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I love it. I want to go on just a small storytelling tangent based off something you said. So, when you said that there's the jokes of, if I come across a fence, I'm jumping it. Kind of thing when outfield herping. And it's funny because that ties right into fishing holes as well.
Oh, 100%. I'm a big fisherman too.
Yes.
Clint. I fish. Yeah, I know.
So, this was, it had to be 20 years ago at this point. And I'm out fishing with a buddy as well. He wasn't really a herper, but if I'm fishing, if I'm around a lake, I'm looking, right? Exactly.
Yep. That's how I fish, is I herp and I fish.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
So we're out, we're on some land, and we're deep in it. We're deep in, off the trail here at this point. I had found a couple black racers. But we'd been fishing most of the night. Well, my buddy blows a tire. And again, we're well off the beaten path. And so I had to call another friend to come get us, or, at least bring what we needed. So pull us. I know we were hung up. He didn't blow a tire. We were hung up is what it was. And if you're around Southern Indiana, you'll understand how often and easily that happens. I mean, Ohio, river bottoms, it's all that's around. So anyways, we're hung up and we need him to come pull us out. So I'm giving him directions. And as we're talking, I say, you're going to come down this road. He's like, yeah. Okay. You're going to see a church. He goes, okay. You're going to go past the church about half a mile and you're going to see a no trespassing sign. I need you to turn in there.
Need you go in there, go down another half a mile. When you hear the bees buzzing at the large oak tree, make a left and you're there.
So as soon as I said the no trespassing, God damn it, Clint. Yeah. See, turn your lights off until you're way in there too.
Do us all a favor. See, I don't have that problem here because here it's all saltwater. So gotcha. I fish all saltwater. I tell everybody the best kind of boat is the one your friend owns. So that's, I got a good buddy of mine that's actually a charter captain, and so I fish with him on the river.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm a little spoiled when it comes to fishing, but I love freshwater fishing, and it's really like, I grew up with a 1/4 acre pond in my front yard. My dad dug it when we built the house, and so I grew up bass fishing, catching, brim and bluegill and all that stuff in there. But saltwater is where I've done most of my work for sure.
Nice.
But and also just so everyone knows, that was not like private property. It was coal mine property. So, I mean, it wasn't like it was somebody, it was a company. And we're firm believers in this area that if they put no trespassing signs up, it's just for liability purposes, because they pretty much expect you.
You're talking to a West Virginia guy.
Yeah.
We have that same logic.
Yeah, they know we're doing it. They know we're taking our 4-wheelers. They know what's happening back there.
See, it ain't like that around here, man. You go past the no trespassing sign, you're very liable to get 2 in the back.
But if you do that on private property, you do that on farmland, it's a different story around here. But with coal miners, they're here.
Well, I've found, because I have to do herping for my job, which is a little bit different than just recreational stuff. And a lot of times, if I'm doing a survey for some rare animal and we're trying to figure out, like, is it rare enough that we need to list it and then protect it, you may need to get on the property. And there's, a lot of people are like, private property owners don't want you to go on their land and find some endangered animal. But I found, knocking on doors, if you're just honest and upfront, and if you lead with most people, I'm looking for snakes.
Yeah.
And, you kind of get that, what the hell are you doing? Like, I'm looking for snakes. And if I find any, I might take them off your property. What that really means is I'm going to take them from this part of your yard about 30 feet to the left. I moved them and then let them go. Right. But anyway, I've found that most of the time, if I'm just honest with people, about 80% of the time, I would say I get go do whatever. And then you'll totally get most of it's sad, but in 2024, most of the people that don't want you on their property has nothing to do with anything other than they're convinced if you break your leg, you're going to sue them. So they don't want you.
Right.
They don't want that liability piece. But one thing that's kind of fun is I did a lot of herping in college and grad school around, hitting barns. Here in West Virginia, it's really hard to road cruise. There's a couple, I didn't know what road cruising really was. We road cruise for frogs in the spring and the winter. Like, that's road cruising. And you can occasionally find a road that'll produce timbers and coppers and stuff like that in the summertime. But for the most part, that's not what we do. So it's just basically drive around, find a barn, get permission, flip. And it's always intrigued me when I find a farmer or a family that has a barn and they get it. And then you say, well, I'm here to look for snakes. And they get, well, we don't want you to take our snakes away. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to take them away.
Yay, I won't. Yeah. Yay, I'm glad you think like that.
And I have a quick story. In college, I really did try with most of the people to get permission, because I didn't want to have that crazy back of the head feeling of, oh God, I'm going to get caught. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I was 100% convinced that nobody lived anywhere near this one barn in the base of the northern panhandle here where I live. And so I thought, it's harmless. It's literally 20 feet off the road. It was one of those. It wasn't like you had to go back across the pasture field. You could pull your car up and be right there. And so I'm doing what we do, and I'm flipping stuff. And I heard this woman's voice, and it sounded like a Norman Rockwell grandma. And she said, "What the F are you doing?" And I was like, whoa. And I turned around, and it's the only time I had a shotgun pointed at me.
Oh, man.
And it was this perfect little grandma. And I thought, this is when I die. And this is the person that's going to do it. Like, this is how this is going down. I was like, oh, whoa, I'm just looking for snakes. And she was like, "What are you looking for?" The gun's still on me. And I was like, "Snakes." And she goes, "Well, my husband goes through a lot of trouble to put those snakes in here. And you're like the third person I've had to have this conversation with about snakes." So apparently there were more herpers than I realized that were around. But, you never thought it was going to be like a 75, 80-year-old grandma with a double, barrel shotgun pointed at me. And I was like, well, this is when I leave. And she's like, "Yeah, this is when you leave." And she did not take that gun off me the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got in my car, drove away. And I was just like, what the hell was that? Like, this just happened to me. And I thought, my girlfriend, now wife, I was like, she's not going to believe me. I'm just not even telling anybody. And then, but other than that, here, for the most part, if you're like respectful, people are totally fine with what you're doing.
I haven't done a lot of that. Like, I've been, because my fishing buddy was a surveyor, years and years ago. He's like 20 years older than me. So he was surveying a long time when he was my age. And he's like, "Man, there's diamondbacks out here." And I'm like, "No, there's not." And he goes, yeah, there is. I said, "Tim, there may have been, 20, 30 years ago." I was like, "I don't think you understand what's happened, but ever since he said that, there has been part of me that's like, man, maybe I need to go knock on some doors and be like, "Hey, I'm trying to find rattlesnakes here. Can I look?" And, most people would probably say yes, because everybody around here hates snakes, especially back where I herp, man. My county has become super developed, so I herp on the outskirts of the county, even outside of the county a lot, where it's much more rural, and everybody back there just doesn't mess with them. So
yeah,
I've thought about it a couple times, but even then I'm like, man, the only stuff I would really want to find is diamondbacks, and I just don't think the habitat's there anymore for them. So
yeah, cool.
You made mention that you probably started keeping colubrids because of what you were finding. Is that what got you? Because I think it was more carpets is where you were.
Yeah. How do we get into colubrids?
Yeah. So how did we make the shift? Well, how did you end up on Colubrid and Colubroid radio?
Well, oh man, that's the best. 2 words, Chris Montross.
Boom, boom. There you go.
Yeah. No, man. So I don't know, man. So the first snakes, technically the first snake I ever owned was a morph corn snake from Petco, and I was like 13. I loved snakes ever since I was a little kid. My dad was one of those people, the only good snake's a dead snake, and he hated snakes with every bone in his body. So, God forbid I ever got a snake. I had leopard geckos for a while because that was like the best thing my mom could convince him to let me have. Because my mom was an animal lover. She didn't care, but dad, not so much. And so I got a little older and I figured out what the internet was. And I figured out how to use it, and I used it to my advantage, and I annoyed the crap out of them for solid 3-4 years until they literally got me a snake and said, "Shut up, here's your snake." So that's how that happened. And they got me a little Petco corn snake for my birthday or something like that. And I loved that thing more than life itself, and a matter of months later it died in my hands, literally. So that was absolutely horrible. I was pretty much dead to the world for 3 days, and then they got me a ball python after that, and that was kind of my pet for a while. But after that, I kind of wanted to branch out into other snakes, and I got a hognose. A Western hognose was actually like my first colubrid that lasted a while. Got another hognose a while later, and then I had a pair of corn snakes, and that was pretty much what I had through high school because I was at my parents' house, couldn't really keep like that. And then got into college, got rid of my ball python, and I just had the two corns and the two hognoses through most of college. And then, so back when I was a little kid, or I say little, searching the internet kid, very young teenager, if that, I found reptiles.tv. I don't know if y'all ever heard of that. I was a young kid. It was popular. Had a guy from, I think he was from Australia or Africa. I'm not sure, but he was on there. He would do random videos, and he pulls out a carpet python, and I was like, "Wow, like that's the prettiest snake I've ever seen." So what did I do? I immediately started searching on about carpet pythons, and everything I read was, because at this point I still didn't have a snake. Everything I read was, oh, they get 7 to 8 feet. They're mean. They need this. They need that. And I'm like, okay, well that's not going to fly with Dad. So kind of moved on from that. So years and years later, I'm in college, and I realized, I'm at my house. I had a job. I had a little bit of money, and I was like, well, parents can't tell me no. So I went to a reptile show, and I brought my 2 corn snakes, and with those 2 corn snakes and $40, I got my first carpet python. And that kind of led me down the carpet python path, because I got an associate's degree in wildlife management and forestry. So I was in college for 2 years, and got my degree, got out. And I had the 1 carpet python, and at that point I was like, all right, carpets are my thing. And after that, I got another one, moved to Texas shortly after college. I was only there for about 6 months. That's a whole other story. So I moved to Texas for about 6 months, and the carpet collection really grew, and was having a lot of fun, really enjoyed the carpets. Came back. Carpets were pretty much the sole focus. At one point, I had a little bit of everything when I came back, mostly carpet pythons, but then I had, a king rat. I had I had a boa, and king rats are coming back, by the way, Clint. So good. Those are coming back. I love them. Few other odds and ends. I had a water python. I love fuscus. They're incredible. So a few odds and ends, and then, blood pythons as well. Then I was like, okay, time to kind of slim down and focus. And so I pretty much got out of everything that wasn't a Papuan carpet, or back then the IJs or earring eyes. So pretty much sold off everything that wasn't those. And I went balls deep for Papuan carpets. And, so I had those. I grew up a collection. There was a period where I managed to, I bought a random gopher snake at a show. I was like, okay, these are freaking sweet. So a week later, I ordered a pair of Brewster County gopher snakes, which are still with me today. So those were my only colubrids. I had 3 Pituophis, and I had, I don't know, 30, 40 Papuan carpets, of all different wild, mostly wild types. I had, I had pure granites and pure xanthics. But then I kind of figured out that wild types were my thing. And then the whole sabbatical from the hobby kind of happened, and I was just kind of maintaining what I had, which was 90% Papuan carpets, and had a couple clutches at that point. I only produced 2. And, back-to-back years, I had 1 clutch in 19, which was the first ever clutch of snakes I ever produced. That was an amazing experience. 2020, I had another clutch. And then shortly after that, if you've listened to my podcast, I've been very open about this. I got a bad case of nidovirus, and needless to say, it wiped out a lot of my stuff, and that was shocking to say the least.
Not good.
No, not at all. And this was years of my life, thousands of dollars I invested into this, and they were gone in a matter of months. The amount of snakes that I had to put down myself because I didn't have thousands of dollars to spend on euthanization through a vet. Obviously, it was still humane. I figured out the best way to do it. So the amount of snakes that I had to put down of my own blood, sweat, and tears was traumatizing to say the least. So I lost a lot of animals, and I was down to, I lost more than half my carpet pythons at that point. I was in a real slump, and I figured it all out. Everything got sorted. It worked itself out, as animals got sick. I tested them, put them down. And then as things kind of evened out, I tested the ones that weren't on several occasions. And, push came to shove. And I determined it was pretty much up, at least as much as I could control. And it's never been a problem since. Everything was separated and quarantined. Nothing came in, nothing went out. Had to cancel several sales from babies. It was it was a process. It sucked. It sucked so much. So everything kind of worked itself out eventually. And I was just kind of in a slump and wanted something new, man. And I found old dark horse herpetoculture. And that was really when life kind of changed. He posted up a pair of Apalachicola white oak gray rat snakes.
Oh,
and I was like,
I can see what pulled you there. I mean, those are some stunning animals.
Yeah. So he posted up some babies for sale, and I wanted them, and I was like, I'm gonna get these things because I haven't gotten snakes and I don't know how long, and damn it, I deserve them. So,
that way to be.
Yeah, right. And so I pulled some strings at the time. Again, I was just in a bad situation in life, and we won't get into all that. But I really had to pull some strings to get these snakes, and I couldn't go to Daytona that year for several reasons. And so I had Justin meet up with Chris and pick up these Apalachicola gray rats for me, and I got them, and man, I fell in love. Like, these were just the most beautiful, incredible little tiny freaking snakes. Like, these are fresh hatchlings, man, and I loved them with every bone in my body. And it was kind of like right then and there, I was like, okay, I think these might be my future, because I don't know, man. I feel like, and this certainly isn't what everybody thinks, but I feel like at a certain point in your keeping, you almost want to keep what's cool, what's in.
The cycles happen, I think, for all of us.
100%.
And it happened for me.
Yeah. You keep what's cool, what's popular. And that's kind of where I was at with the carpet pythons. I still love them. I'm not talking bad about carpets at all. I love them to death. They're one of my favorite snakes, especially pop ones. But even though I loved them, my heart was always with colubrids, but carpets were cool, and I was cool because I kept carpets, and whatever. Yeah. And I got these little rat snakes, man, and everything just changed, and it brought me back to my roots of field herping and how much I loved field herping and how much these snakes in my backyard meant to me, and so I maintained. The only colubrids I had were the gray rats and my Brewster County gophers and another random gopher snake. And I maintained that for a while. And then I got out of the bad situation I was in. And I remember after all that, I was sitting at Justin's cigar shop that I worked at the time. And I was sitting there and I was talking to Chris Painchap, and he was like, "Hey man, I got these Seminole County yellow rats available. Do you want them?" And my gut reaction was like, no, I can't. Then all of a sudden I paused and I was like, wait, why not? Like, you have no reason to say no anymore. So I was like, hell yeah, I want those things. Like, put them in a box. So sent him the money and he shipped them over, and man, it was all downhill from there. You know? And now today, that was, it's 2024. This was 2020-ish era. And the Seminole County yellows were the first yellows I got. The Apalachicola grays were the first ones I got. Those both bred for me this year.
That's cool.
Which was really cool for me. Got eggs in the incubator right now. And now I'm sitting at 22 different localities of rat snakes alone of different kinds. And 12 of those are yellow types. And yeah, that's where we are today.
Yeah, I want to say something to that. So one of the things, because Jake and I are in a chat that Montross made called Lowest of the Low.
Yeah.
Which is giving credence to the fact that everybody in that chat likes Nerodia.
Yes.
And if you like Nerodia by herpetoculture standards, it is the lowest of the low.
You are trash.
Yeah. You don't know what the hell you're talking about because they're awesome. So shut up. So anyway, but I really I don't really communicate much in chats because I am moving all the damn time and I don't stop, but I read the chat all the time. And I just love the fact that yellow rat snakes are one of your main critters. Yeah. Because when my first attempt at grad school, I went to Florida Tech. And I say my first attempt because he just was not a good fit for my brand new wife at the time and me. We thought we wanted to get out of West by God, and then we went to Florida, and we were like, please take us back. And we left Florida running and screaming because Florida is Florida, and it's not West Virginia. But anyway, I got to herp, and up until then, I had just heard what people said about yellow rats. And it was like, they're nasty, they bite, they're horrible creatures, they're not really that, cool, blah, blah, blah. And I distinctly remember the first yellow rat I found. It was in Palm Bay, Florida. And, I talked to Montross about this at length while we were at IHS. And I remember looking up with my head beam at this public or headlamp beam at this public fishing area called Stick Marsh. And I didn't know what the hell I was looking at because it was the coolest looking snake I'd seen. It was this I can't describe the color yellow. It was not yellow. It was more of a vibrant citrusy orange with this massive contrast to the stripes. And I just for about 2 minutes standing there, I was like, that's a yellow rat. I was like, no, that's not a yellow rat. Everybody said they're garbage. And then I'm looking at this thing that's not garbage. That's a freaking yellow rat. And I didn't bring many snakes back with me from Florida, but I did bring back a pair of yellow rats. Both of them had been clipped by cars and were basically like, you're going to live, you're going to die. Okay, I'll take you. And then I did the same thing with a corn snake that lived forever. The yellows lived for about 5 years for me. Nice. But they're just fantastic animals. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that, I think too often we get caught up on what's rare, what's hard to find. Yeah. And if you just take a freaking step back and look at these animals that are super common where they occur or not that common, but at the same time, but you've got geographic variation. That's where it's at. To me, that's why I like the locality keeping. Everybody I know that's really into the keeping localities of things maybe other than Alterna too. But, I'm the locality king. You're the locality rat snake guy. We're all herpers too. It's because you've been there. Like my Hernando County king snakes. I love those things to death. Last year when we were in Florida, I rerouted my family to Hernando County. My wife had no clue what the hell was going on. At one point we were in the middle area around Universal. And she's like, why are we driving west? I was like, no reason. I wanted to go to Hernando and see where the hell these snakes came from. You know what I mean?
Don't worry about it.
And you see it, and you're like, oh, well, this is why they're colored that way. That's so freaking cool. And you can't really do that with these super rare, we're reduced down to one population. You got to go to this one spot to see them. You lose that fun element of, keeping, which is just understanding the variation and why. That's the thing. You get the why by going out, and then you find these freaking snakes, and, it's just cool. So that's my little tirade on that. But
yeah, and I think that's again, I think field herping is why I lean towards these things so much, man. And yellow rats, that's one of the first things I ever caught, dude.
Yeah.
Granted, in my area, they don't. And that's what I love about them. Like yellow rats from South Florida, North Carolina, look so freaking
totally different.
And they can have stripes, they can have saddles, they can be yellow, they can be orange, they can be really dark, they can be green, they can be this, they can be that. And it's like, but even within the same county, everybody likes to put this label on yellow rats. Like, okay, they stink, they're yellow, and they have stripes. And I promise you, man, you look at my stuff. I don't even know how many yellow rats I have here. Like I said, I have 12 different county specific localities and several individuals from the same county, and none of them look the same. Like you bring up Hernando, I have 4 Hernando County animals. None of them look identical, and nice. Like I have one has these orange blotches on it, and he's gigantic. He's like 6.5 feet long. Could eat a medium rat if I gave it to him. I don't, I feed him mice. But he's huge and he's super healthy, and he's got these orange blotches. And I've got one that looks like something from a little bit more south, really faded, almost purple, really thin stripes.
Yep.
Got one that's more brown. I got one that's, has thinner stripes, but still has the orange blotches. And these all came from the same freaking county, dude.
Yeah.
And granted, yes, to somebody who doesn't care, they might all look the same. But like when you take the time, because like me, that was another thing with Popwins. Popwin carpets, I was way more into selectively breeding for certain traits. So I developed an eye for small details and what made something special. And so I transferred that into the yellow rats, and the smallest little detail, I'm like, I can breed for that. Like I can make more of that, and I can make it better, And so it's just like little details like that. And sometimes it's very, very obvious, some of these details, and it's amazing to me, the variation from, they're so widespread, and the variation you find just in Florida, and they're incredible from Southern Key Largo and the Deckerts to the Everglades to Central Florida and up into my area into the Carolinas. Like they vary so much, and I just think they're severely overlooked. So I'm doing everything in my power to be like, hey, look at these. Yeah. Like, these are cool too. Don't overlook them. And I have a big thanks to Chris Montross, and really big thanks, but also a FU to Chris Montross for pretty much ruining my life and making me obsessed with these damn things.
Well, I you know what, I'll tell you what. Something I'll say about Chris is meeting him at IHS. That was the first time I got to meet Chris. And spent dinner there with him, and quite a bit of time over the weekend. And that is a prime example. Chris is a prime example of what I just mentioned earlier on this episode of not selling reptiles. Chris sells passion.
Yeah, man.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris is incredibly passionate about locality animals, locality rat snakes, locality water snakes, and he exudes it. If you get him to speak about those animals, you're going to see exactly what I mean. 100%. It's so much better. It's even funny if you really want to get him going, ask him about greenish rat snakes.
Oh, don't even get me started on greenish rat snakes. Don't even. We'll talk about that if you want to, but I might hurt some feelings. So
I love it. I love it.
Because I'm on the same boat as him with that one.
But yes, I absolutely love the fact, like I said, how much passion Chris brings into what he does.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all that, you hear Zach call him his dealer all the time. And if you guys think that you're the only two that feel the way about the man, it's not possible.
No.
Not possible.
No.
After meeting Chris, I can completely see why.
No, and Chris he's been a mentor to me pretty much since I met him. I literally, he lives in Alabama. He's about
I try not to hold that against him.
Yeah. Right. He's about 6.5 hours from me, and we were doing some trading of, some different stuff. And I woke up at about 4:00 in the morning. I drove to Chris's house, hung out with him for, a few hours, traded the snake, saw his collection, and drove back home all in the same day. And that was like how badly I wanted to meet him and see his collection and just, be there. And I've hung out with Chris several times now. He came to my house, came herping with me. We went to Hunt Club. And Chris is a great dude. He's he's definitely special. He's a special guy, and he's really been a big influence on the things I keep and the way I keep. A lot of people are like, your setups look a lot like Chris Montross's, and I'm like, yeah, that's not on accident. And that's like, and that goes into like, how I keep also plays into, the field herping thing. And, I don't do a lot of naturalistic setups, but I do everything in my power in my setups to exhibit natural behaviors. And that to me is just as important as how it looks, because it can look the prettiest damn thing in the world. But if you have a snake that's semi-arboreal and you don't have any way for it to get off the ground, but it's all planted and looks all pretty, you're not doing anything for that snake. But if it looks, kind of bare bones, but you have ways for it to exhibit those natural behaviors, that's far more important to me. And that's how I set up everything. Because granted, I've got a lot of freaking snakes. Of course, Clint, nothing will hold a candle to what. It's not like that, but
it's not something to shoot for. Okay. Yeah.
It's definitely not like that, but I do have to take into account, me being a one-man show and a small room and all that. I do have to I keep in racks, but I keep in oversized racks, oversized tubs for the most part. My Pituophis definitely need bigger racks. That's not a question, but, which is happening this year, by the way. But I normally keep in oversized tubs, oversized, rack systems, so I can do things. I've got, my black box racks you see behind me. Every one of these tubs, they're not tall, they're not that big, but every single one of them has a perching option. Every single one of them has multiple hides. Every single one of them has an oversized water dish. Like, I do all of these things to make sure that these animals they don't look like a piece of the jungle, but every single one of those setups has an opportunity for the snake to exhibit natural behaviors. And that to me is so, so important. Like not a one of these 100 tubs behind me has just a water dish and some substrate. Like I don't do that, and
I like that.
It's really important to me to do that. And that's because like of the field herping and like, and seeing these things, I challenge anyone, like it doesn't matter like what you keep, what your passion is. Like if you keep exotics, that's perfectly fine, obviously. But if you ever have the opportunity to go see the snakes you keep in the field, do it. Yep. I don't care what it takes, what you got to do, save up the money to go to, Australia, South America, whatever it has to be, wherever that species you keep is from. Do whatever you can to try and go see him in the field, man. It will change your life. And that's why I fell in love with so much of the stuff that I keep, is because these are the things that I find in my backyard. And it's different, man.
Yeah.
There's
it's funny you say that, because I told my wife that in the next 2 years, I'm going to Bolivia.
Please.
Because that's where the false water cobras are. But she didn't know the context of that. And she just turned her head very slowly and was like, Bolivia? Isn't that one of those countries you're never supposed to go to? And I was like, well, maybe, but I'm going.
Yeah.
Because I got to see a freaking false water cobra in the wild. Like, this is killing me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I definitely plans for that. That's why I did all the hognose snake stuff. With writing the hog book, and I've said, I don't know if I've really gone into this, but this is kind of the theme of tonight's episode. One of the issues I had with the first book was I was writing it from the perspective of a keeper, which is totally great and fine and dandy. And then I learned with my job how to do research and write. So I was like, okay, I can kind of fill in the gaps with the natural history and everything because that's kind of what I do as a professor. And to this day, if there's any part, there's this weird part of me with that book where I'm like that's the noise that goes on in my brain. If you're wondering, it's and it's basically like, you didn't catch any of them. You weren't out there. So for this hog book, I write the first word of the book tomorrow because I finally cleared my schedule out. But prior to that, I've now spent 50 days. I added it up looking for the damn things. And this go around is like a completely different thing because I've kept them, I've bred them, I've raised them, I've herped them. I've kind of like, I feel like I am worthy.
It's the complete circle.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the whole nine.
Yeah. But I can't agree with you more about the getting out there and no. It's funny you bring that up because I was keeping rat snakes, Asian rat snakes, like all the cool kids do. Hi, Clint. So, and they just weren't working for me. Yeah. And I've talked about this, the juju of the house. And this is my Montross entry story. And I was like, this locality thing, I'm really kind of interested in that. That might be something I could get into. I do the natural history, herping, traveling, blah, blah, blah. And he had his pair of Brooks Eye, Dade counties. And I was like, if they're coming from him, they're definitely legit. This is before I really knew Chris. So what the hell? And, now I own damn near every freaking king snake he ever had because you can't have them in Alabama. But part of the reason why kings were brought over is I found them in the wild and I knew my setups were perfect for them. So you mentioned how everything has a perch. With my stuff, at the house, the racks I had and everything, I was like, I can't really give them a perch. And I didn't like that I was keeping the rat snakes in the particular racks that I had. Mm-hmm. And I was like, but I can certainly add a pretty cool substrate mix and get, a more ground dwelling fossorial critter can get a lot more out of this environment. And I knew that that's what Getula does. Like I'm not saying they don't climb. So if you're out there like ranting and raving that Loafman says they don't climb, I know they climb, but they're prime. That's the dichotomy between Pantherophis and Getula kings, wherever they occur, is that the rat snakes are like a meter or more off the ground. Normally they will be on the ground. The Getula kings are a meter off the ground to down on the ground or underneath the ground in rodent burrows and everything. And that's been one of the secrets to the success I've had is that, keeping them that way. I know my snakes are content. My poor son knows they're content because he's the one that has to do the weekend poop scoops and they come roaring up out of their subterranean lairs, as he says, at his hands. But the herping made me a better keeper for them, and it also made me appreciate them more. I was offloading my Easterns to Clint at a very expedited pace. And then I found one in Chesapeake, Virginia, where mine were from. And I haven't sent any more to Clint yet. You may be getting my North Carolina.
Just so you know, the Easterns you did send me
have made a lot of
half of the babies we've had so far have been cranked out from them. So I've got tons of Eastern Kings right now.
Yeah. So, there you go. So, good stuff. So then with your keeping strategy, you mentioned that you do you do ambient in the room for the heat?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is kind of where I vary from some people because I keep so a lot of people look at my stuff and say I'm a Noah's Ark keeper. And to an extent, I am. But at the same time, I'm not. It's a lot of different of the same.
Yep.
So, and to to elaborate on that, I keep a lot of rat snakes. A lot of them are different, but technically they're all Eastern rats. I'm not even going to talk about that. But you know, they're all grays, yellows, blacks. I've got more yellows than anything. I've got grays, I've got blacks, I've got Texas rats, got Gulf hammocks, I've got Deckards, I've got Everglades. You know, all the colors of the rainbow. You know, I got them all. I keep them all the same way. But I also have quite a bit of Pituophis. You know, several, and I also have some Western hognose snakes. I have Barron's racers. What else? I made a list earlier. I've got Nerodia, and every single one of them is kept exactly the same. And the only ones that I really kind of wondered about was the hognoses and some of the pines. People, you know, about the hot spots and stuff. But I was like, you know, I'm going to throw them in here and see what happens. The hognoses are doing absolutely fine. My Pituophis do now absolutely fine. My Pituophis get a little ornery when it gets over 80 degrees in here. They get a little upset. And, but I think that's okay, you know, because my room varies. You know, the only things that have heat in here are my carpet pythons. They have back heat on a baker's rack and big tall tubs. And, everything else is kept ambient. So my room, during the summer, at least, the cold end of things gets down to 76, 77. Normally about 77, sometimes down to 75. Just depends on the rain and how hot it is, and y'all know how that goes. And then it ramps up during the day to about 78 to 80, and it just fluctuates like that. And man, I haven't had a single problem with anything, between my Western hognoses to my pits to all my rat snakes to my Nerodia to the Barons. Like, I haven't had a single friggin' issue with any of them. And it's not like I just started doing this like recently. I've had my hogs in here for, you know, one of them, the shortest amount of one has been in here is coming up on a year, because I got my last hog at Daytona last year. And the other ones have been in here for 2 years, and no issues, you know.
Do you brumate in that room?
No, I do not. I brumate in my garage. I do a slight, so I am one of those people to where I do like to give everything, even if it's juvenile, hatchling, whatever, I give them a slight brumation for about a month, just to get some type of cycle going. So I do drop my room down to the mid 60s, and I cut everybody off food for only about a month, because I feel like in normal situations they can go a month and not eat and be okay. So I drop those temperatures enough, you know, at least for the carpet pythons to get a winter cycle, and then the colubrids to get a mild winter cycle. So I do that for everything, whether it just hatched this year or it's 2-3 years old. And then, so I do that as they get raised up. And then when it's breeding time, they go into the garage for a real cool down. And it's funny, I'm kind of tardy to the party when it comes to eggs and breeding and all that, because I go off of my temperatures. I don't manipulate anything. When my garage gets cold, I throw them in there. And when it gets hot, I pull them out. You know, it's not, and that's the other thing I love about keeping stuff where you live.
Yeah.
it makes that crap so much easier, because it's like, what's going on outside? Okay, do that. And you know, it makes it a lot easier. So when it gets cold here, that's when they go in the garage. When it gets warm here, that's when they come out. And this year was kind of funky. Winter actually lasted a little bit longer than normal. So they got a solid 2.5 months ish in the garage. And you know, literally all the breeders went in there. They did really, really well. If it gets really cold out, I do have so I swear by oil-filled radiant heaters. I have one running in my room 24/7 with the AC vent turned off in here. It normally doesn't have to run because it gets pretty freaking hot here. But if it gets too cold in the garage, I will turn on a second one or a different one that I have that stays in there, just to kind of keep things above 45 essentially, because there's one day I walked in there and it was 45 degrees shooting on my albino pine snakes, and I was like, okay, let's bump that up a little bit, but it's hard because I bumped it up. I turned that heater on. Next day I walk in there, it was a weekend, I slept in, I walked in there, got a little warm outside, and all of a sudden it's 75 degrees in my garage. I'm like, okay, that was a bad idea. So it takes some tweaking, but man, I had stuff in there down into last year and the year before. I had stuff down into the low 40s. But it's never more than a day or two, because like if the Southeast, like it never stays that cold for that long. So my average temps, in the garage are anywhere from low 50s to high 50s, sometimes 60. But I think the whole, again, this goes back into field herping and knowing what your environment is like. I hate the whole drop them down to 65 for a week, drop them down to 55 for 3 months, bring them back up to 65 for a week. And I hate it's the scriptedness of it. It's like, do this, do that. And I'm not talking bad against anybody that does that. Obviously it works. It's not an issue for me, but for me, it's not natural, so like they might be, 3 to 5 feet underground. Around here, you're not getting more than 3 to 5 feet underground because we live at sea level. Yeah. So, but you can't tell me if a day there, it can be in the middle of January and we'll get a day that's 60 degrees. And then the next day it'll be 30. So you can't tell me that those temperatures underground aren't changing at least a little bit. So at least that's how my brain works. Yes, it's very insulated, so it doesn't get that cold. It also doesn't get that hot, but there is some variation. So I like the garage aspect for me and just kind of letting it ride because it gives that slight variation, nothing super scripted. I'm going off of what is going on outside. And that's what works for me. And again, not everybody has a garage to throw their stuff into. Zach, for you, it gets in the negative temperatures. Yep. Clint, it's the same for you. It gets real freaking cold out where you guys are. Yeah. So you don't have that luxury. I do. It does shorten my brumation for a lot of stuff, but again, I keep pretty much all local things. Large majority of my collection is from Florida or just north of here. So it's really not that different from where I'm at. And to me, that's natural. And that's why also keeping these things just makes life easier for me.
No, it makes sense. And I too like to utilize just the weather outside is going to dictate when things go down. I can choose if I want to bring them up earlier. If it's still cold outside, I can bring them up early if I want to. Yeah. I don't usually want to. I enjoy that time off. You know?
Oh yeah.
Getting the freezer stocked again. Yeah. But the one thing I do use the outside temperature for cooling down our rooms because I pump air into the rooms to cool them down. And it was so funny this past season because I have it set to where it's supposed to quit pumping air from outside in when it hits 50 degrees. I don't want it to go below 50. Yeah. And since I pump air from the outside, it's got to be cold enough outside for this to actually work. So that's, I'm at the mercy of the weather here. But so I screwed up when I programmed it this particular season in one of the rooms, and I walked in and it was 38 degrees.
Nice.
And you can bet there was some puckering that took place when I saw that. So I'm running over and fixing that real quick. But luckily, I say luckily, and because I was really nervous because it was the Asian room. And I'm thinking there's some valuable snakes in here. I don't want this to screw up. But at the same time, if there's any room that's going to be able to handle it the best, it's going to be the Asian room, as far as that low number. But everything's just fine. I'm with you, man. It's same thing with incubating eggs. Yeah, when people 100%. Want to hold it at a set temp, it doesn't happen in nature that way. There's variance up and down. So
the only reason that I used my incubator this year was because I struck out on carpets last year and this year actually. And so my incubator's just been sitting there for the last 2 years. And I was like, this is an expensive thing that I have, so I'm going to use it. And, last year I bookshelved them, I kept them in my closet. And this year it wouldn't have worked as well because my closet stays shut because my podcasting equipment is in front of my closet door now. And so this year it wouldn't have worked as well. But if I run out of space in my incubator, I'm not afraid to throw them on the shelf. And but I also incubate pretty much everything lower than most people. My Colubrid eggs are incubating at 77 now. I much prefer longer incubation temps. Last year when I did things, again, my room fluctuates a lot. So those eggs went from 75 up to 78 to 80. And if they fluctuated like that and everything hatched out at, 65-ish days, give or take a little bit, didn't produce much last year. This year is definitely a good bit more. And this year, I've got the set incubation temperature, but again, that's just mostly because I had the incubator sitting there, and I'm like, I didn't spend $600 on this thing for it to be my bedside table, which that is what it is. But it's I was like, this is way too expensive of a piece of furniture, so we're gonna use this just because it's there. But again, I incubate at a lower temperature because I am not about having things hatch too early. That is not my cup of tea. I'd rather them stay in there for 65, 70 plus days and then be bigger, more robust babies than have this little tiny thing hatch out at day 58 and it just be like this shoestring that wants to die. So it's not really my thing. And so I always incubate lower. I'm not in a rush, man. The longer they stay in those eggs, the less pinkies I got to fork out, so it works out. So, and again, I don't want anybody to take this. I'm talking bad about anybody that does what they do. Everybody has a set way of doing things. Like Chris Painchab, oh my God, I love the guy to death. One of my best friends, one of my favorite people in the hobby. And Chris, I love you, buddy, but that dude is so by the freaking book. And it's because of his OCD, and that's fine. And I love him for it. But he's like, all right, on day 45, I'm pulling off the tape on this box and doing this and doing that. And that's all fine and dandy. Boy, I poke a couple holes in my egg boxes, throw them in the incubator and forget about them. They'll hatch when they hatch. And that's just the way I do things. And
Chris is also an engineer.
Yes, exactly. That's his engineer brain at work.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I see it now.
And that's fine. I deal with engineers on a daily basis at my day job, and I know exactly how they are. And again, I love Chris.
We love you to death, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not talking bad about Chris at all. That dude has ruined me almost as much as Chris has, as far as Pituophis go. A lot of my stuff has come from Chris. And yeah, man, love the guy to death. And but so it's just different ways of doing things. And at the end of the day, as long as your snakes are healthy, I couldn't care less how you do it. There's again the old saying of there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's a lot of ways to take care of these things. There's a lot of ways to do it right. This is just how I do it. If what you do works well for you and your animals are healthy, that's all that matters at the end of the day. Nothing else matters but the animals that are under your care, because those things are your responsibility. It's like having a kid, a lot less responsibility, but these things you are responsible for keeping them alive, and it's your responsibility to do that. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters. I couldn't care less how you do it as long as they're healthy.
So we ask a lot of people this question. Sometimes we forget, most of the times we don't, but as far as herpetoculture is concerned, and you're in it, with the podcasts, plural, the community that we're part of, the THP community, which I'm glad you all include me in that big old chat, by the way. It's it's really nice when I've had a day, kind of like the day I had at the university today, and I just want to see that humans can actually just be fun.
Yeah.
And then I get into that chat, and whatever the hell nonsense was discussed that day, it just literally brings me back to the midpoint and like, okay, I can wake up tomorrow. It's all going to be good. That got dark real quick. Wasn't meant to be. But anyway.
Don't worry, buddy. I feel that way every single day. No.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, that's good. But, where do you see herpetoculture going? Good things, bad things? Where do colubrids fall in this? Or are you of the vibe that colubrids are coming back? Are you of the vibe that, well, no, not really? Like, just what's Jake's thoughts on the current status of this discipline we hold so dear?
This, man, there's so many. It's a hard question to answer because, like, for me, I take the paint job approach, of like, this hobby is what you make it, man. And
yep.
I'm kind of like you, Zach. I lurk the chats a lot.
Yes.
I'm not super active in any of them. I've tried to be more frequently. But man, I've gotten really good at just like leaving the BS over there. Like, I don't comment on people's stuff, like giving my opinions. My opinion wasn't asked for. I'm not going to give it. I'm not going to volunteer it. If somebody messaged me and asked, I'll talk to anybody any day of the week. You want to message me, ask me a question, tell me what I think, I'm going to tell it to you. But I'm not going to comment on somebody's post telling them what I think, because that just starts crap. So in my opinion, the hobby's great.
There you go.
From where I sit, it's fantastic, dude, because like all the drama, all the crap is away from me and I don't pay no attention to it, and so I don't know, man. The hobby is what we make it, and it can go a lot of ways, and it's up to us as a discipline as a whole, to, I hate the term police ourselves, because that in turn means you giving your unwanted opinion to somebody who's not going to listen or give a crap either way. But in a sense it is, we are the only ones that can make this better. So we have to do our part to promote positivity and have fun and laugh and do what we're going to do. We're the only ones that can make or break this, man. And it's so important. That's why, like, me and Sky get comments about how enthusiastic we are on Flippin' 10. To me, sometimes I think we're annoying with it, but people are like, nah, dude, it's infectious. And like, that's what I want, man. Like, I want people to hear me talk and just get hyped, no matter what it is. Like, that's all I want to do is get people excited, man. Like, forget the drama, forget what Joe Schmo said about your keeping and what you do and what you keep and your stuff. You keep dirt snakes and whatever it may be. If you're having fun, man, just talk about what you have fun doing. And that is all that freaking matters at the end of the day, dude. And just the sooner you do that, the sooner you're going to have a whole lot of fun doing this. And that's what it's about for me, man. It doesn't matter what anybody else keeps. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. As long as your animals are healthy and you're having fun doing it, keep it going, man. Just keep that up and just enjoy what you do. Doesn't matter what's popular. It doesn't matter what anybody else keeps, keep what makes you happy. Don't follow the trends. Follow the trends if that's what you like. If that's what you're into, then do that. That's perfectly fine. But like, you're going to get, I can tell you, if you keep stuff because it's cool, you're going to get burnt out way before I do, my friend. I promise you that, because I keep a bunch of cheap freaking snakes, but I love them. I love them more than life itself, dude. Like, these things are my passion. They're my entire life, and I have so much fun with it. And anything negative and all that, there's just a lot of people I don't talk to anymore because it's just negativity. It's drama, it's BS that I don't care about. And that's not why I'm in this. It's not why I do this. Like, that takes the fun out of all of it. Like, this isn't my job. I spend so much more money on this hobby than I do get back from it. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, man. And it, like, you know, so you got to have fun with it. And, you know, man, as far as the, you know, sorry for that whole soapbox, you know, that's where
I love it. Question, man.
That's where I stand on a lot of that. As far as the Colubrids go, man, they're coming back with a vengeance. You know, at least that's the way I see it. A lot of people are, you know, doing Colubrid oriented podcasts, and a lot of people are just getting more into these things. And no matter what it is, they're having fun, and Colubrids are fun snakes to keep. You know, I'm a North American guy through and through. You know, I recently got a Ridley eye from a good buddy of mine, Preston. That's the first, you know, not North American species I've kept in quite a while. And then a buddy of mine's bringing me a king rat to Daytona. And so those are kind of my side projects. I also have the Barons racers, you know, and
nice.
So those are my little side projects. I love them all to death. And, you know, those are my, you know, just kind of side things that I really enjoy, really love. And, you know, again, it's just following what you love, man. Don't follow the crowd. And again, don't get into Colubrids because everybody else is. You know, if your heart's not there, don't do it. You know, if you're a Python, if you're a Python guy, stay a Python guy. You know, try out a Colubrid or two if something catches your interest, but don't try to do it because everybody else is. You know, but
don't chase it because the market's going that direction.
No, dude, you will.
You know,
fail.
don't do that crap. No.
Yeah, because I promise you, whenever the market's going that direction, you get into it. By the time those animals you got are ready to go, that market's somewhere else.
Yes.
You know,
just do what you enjoy,
yes.
and you will be successful at it. So I've got one more question for you, and it may be the most important one of the night. And you know, it may or may not dictate whether or not you're ever invited back on the podcast. So,
Jesus,
will you be attending Colubrid Fest?
I see. I knew this was coming.
That's right. We're going to ask every guest from here on out. So if you're hearing this, know that you will be asked.
I can assure you I'm going to do my absolute best.
I'll accept that for now.
No, yes.
That is
for now.
I really, really want to go. I was actually thinking about vending for a minute there, but September is going to be kind of close to when everything's going to be hatching for me. Like everything should be hatching before Daytona, but you know, I like to keep stuff longer than most people to make sure they're really going. So I thought about vending, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do my absolute best to attend. It's only about 11 and a half hour drive for me.
Just drive up to Montrose. Yeah. You can ride with him.
Yeah. Hey, that's actually,
we've got this mapped out already.
Yeah.
Done deal.
Yeah. So I am definitely going to do my best. I would really, really like to go. And it's definitely on the agenda. So hopefully, and to you, honestly, man, like as a herper, 11 and a half hours, that ain't nothing, man.
No,
I'll make an 11 and a half hour drive, man. You know, me and Sky did a South Florida trip here recently. That's why I'm so happy to hear IHS is in South Florida next year. I'm going. But, you know, we did a South Florida trip just not last weekend, but the weekend before. And, man, between going to Sky's house, going to Florida or South Florida, harping around South Florida and all that, I probably spent 24 hours inside of a car. You know, we found all kinds of stuff. It was great. It was super fun. But like, man, driving's what I do nowadays, man. Like, 11 and a half hours is nothing. I did that for Northeast Carpet Fest in a weekend. I went up I left on a Friday morning, came back in the middle of the night on Sunday, and that was 10 and a half hours. And it took me like 13 to get there that morning because traffic sucks. But yeah, man, I'm going to try and make it happen. It's more right now. It's more so down to details of the hotel and how much that's going to cost. Cause finances can be tight for me at times, but I'm trying to compensate for that now. So, I'm really going to try my best. I do really want to go.
We'd love you to be there. Man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hope to see you there.
Yeah. I really wanted to go to IHS, but everything's just so soon because Daytona takes priority. Yes. IHS was this month or June, and Daytona's August, and then Colubroid's going to be September. So it's all like bam, 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 and then fall herping starts right then. So it's just it's a lot of go. So I'm definitely going to do my best though.
Perfect.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
All righty. So people want to get a hold of you. Obviously you got your podcast, so plug those. But we didn't talk about is it longleaf Reptilia?
Yes.
Yes. That.
Yes.
So where can people find you?
Yeah, on Instagram, for my personal stuff, Longleaf Reptilia, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Definitely more Instagram oriented. Hit me up. And again, the whole Longleaf name that came from Field Herping, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite habitat. So hit me up there. And then any of the podcast stuff, check out the Herpetoculture Network on all your listening platforms. On the Herpetoculture Network is where you will find the Herpetoculture Podcast, which was the original show on the network, and then Flippin' 10. Those are the two podcasts I'm a part of. And man, that's pretty much it. If you like locality stuff, hit me up, man. I'm waiting, Zach. I'm waiting on you to tell me when to send you money for Locality Kings, because that's my next endeavor that I'm really afraid to go down, because
I'm your guy.
It's gonna be a problem. And so all my buddies are like, man, you gotta get some king snakes. I'm like, I'm waiting on Zach to tell me when.
Gotcha. Things are that'll be about 4 weeks from now.
Nice.
But
nice.
Lots of stuff is a go. I'm not going to mention anything. I don't want to jinx it till it's hatched.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm waiting on the one locality we talked about specifically, because I got yellow rats from the same one, and I'm like, I gotta have the set, man.
You gotta have the set.
So waiting on those, and a lot of things down the pipeline, man. Again, a lot of Pituophis over here too, and then rat snakes out the wazoo. I got about 60 eggs on the ground right now, all locality of different stuff. So
nice.
Hit me up if you like localities, awesome. Man. I'm your guy. And
right.
Chris would kill me if I didn't say it, but if you don't own Pituophis debbii jani, you need to change that 100%, because best snakes in the freaking world. So
there we go. All right. Well, thank you, Jake. This was fun. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, thank you.
This
man.
was a lot of fun. I agree.
I appreciate y'all hitting me up, man. Like I told y'all before this, it was probably the day before y'all messaged me. I was like, I wonder if I'll ever be cool enough to be on Colubrid and Colubroid. And next day I got a message, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. So I certainly appreciate the invite, y'all. And I know I babble a lot, but thank y'all for the opportunity. This was a lot of fun. And
thank you,
Clint. Good to officially talk to you. I feel like I've known who you are for a very long time, but we've never actually spoken before. So it was great to actually talk to you, man.
Hey, I feel the same, buddy. Like I told you before we started, we're fans, as well. We love what you guys are doing. So, it was much my pleasure as anybody else's, man. Trust me.
Yeah.
So.
And you've never been on THP. So that's going to change soon. We'll hit you up.
You know how to get a hold of me.
Yeah. We're going to hit you up for an episode. We're going to plug Colubrid Fest hardcore.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Cool. And on that token, I do want to give you some props, man, because when your podcast came out, this is going to be really weird because they're our parent network, but I've been listening to Morelia Python Radio because that was about it. And then Joe had his show at the time, From the Ground Up. And those were my two that I would listen to religiously. And then I was like, what the hell is this herpetoculture podcast thing? And I listened to you and Justin from like day one. And it's been really fun to watch how your show's evolved. So now you got a freaking network. So way to go, dude.
Yeah, thanks.
Props to you, man. Justin, and everybody over there.
Yeah, and I mean, huge, especially a huge shout out to Justin. None of this would be possible without him. Yeah. I like to say Justin's the brains. I'm just the other guy that talks too much, and that's about it.
I get it.
Yeah, I get it. We're just the other guys, man.
Yes.
We gotta stick together, buddy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So on that note, where can they find you at, Clint?
You can find me at on Facebook, Clint Bartley, or Metazotics. Follow us on Facebook. Follow Metazotics on Facebook, because that's really where we update everything so often. as well as on Instagram, Metazotics LLC. Please hop on metazotics.com. And if you are not a subscriber to our newsletter, do that. You can go to contact us and it'll have a spot for you to sign up right there. And what that does is once a week, every Monday, I send out a newsletter and you will have, you'll have specials that the store's running. You're going to have a PDF that has every available animal that we have at that moment. There's another link that will take you to every animal that has hatched and an anticipated date that it will be available. So you know what's coming down the pipeline. And then what I really, really like is you also will have a link that you can click that will take you to a complete list of everything incubating and when the anticipated hatch date is. So when people ask for wait lists and things like that, we really don't do that. Instead, I rather put it all out there so you know everything that's coming and when. And that way you can reach out and let me know that, hey, this is something I'm after whenever you see that it's going to be coming available soon. So please do that. As a reminder, and that's on metazotics.com. And as a reminder to all of our listeners, if you do purchase anything from the website, use coupon code CC Radio to save yourself 5% on anything that you get. And if you want to email me, metazotics@gmail.com.
All right, there we go. And final word, because we've only said this word 50 times tonight, maybe more. Join that Colubrid Fest Facebook page, because that's where we're going to be making a lot of announcements. We'll put announcements up on our podcast pages, but the main, as they come, they will be put up directly onto that particular page. Those of you that are interested, tell your friends, tell your family. We got a lot of writing on this, so we want as many humans as we can possibly get in those rooms.
Absolutely.
Over those weekends in September. If you want to get a hold of me, I'm Dr. Crawdad, Instagram, Facebook. I'm Zach Loafman. And then you can look me up online and email me if you want to do that. Grad students, as always, hit me up. I am currently trying to move out the 2023 false water cobras. Research projects are now done. And today, the 2024 is hatched. So I got a bunch of people here at West Liberty like, can you please move these things yesterday? So you want a false water cobra, hit me up. They will go at a reasonable price, I got to get it the hell out of here price. So that's that. And I usually give people that indicate that they heard that on the podcast a deal. So yeah, that's that. So as we always say, morning, afternoon, evening, or night, whatever time of day it is, hope you're having a good one. Later.